Hello, everyone. Well, we will be talking about seven laws of healing, right? And just really understanding if there are any laws of nature in medicine. And we have a special guest today, an award winning naturopathic doctor. And he's written a book called The Serpent and the Butterfly. So he will be discussing laws of nature in medicine that you can apply. So that is the overall topic that we are discussing today. While I'm waiting for Dr. Ben. Hello, Dr. Ben. How are you?
Good. How are you today?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for joining and super excited that you've written this amazing book called The Serpent and the Butterfly. And Dr. Ben is an award-winning naturopathic doctor in the country. And maybe tell us a little bit about yourself and we go into your book and the protocols.
Thank you so much for having me. Yeah, so I run a clinic here in Portland, Oregon, and my name is Dr. Ben Reeves, naturopathic physician. And I've been practicing for several years here in the Portland area where I'm from. And my book is The Serpent and the Butterfly, The Seven Laws of Healing, which came out last year and has been endorsed by a lot of pretty well-known people in the profession. It's a way of kind of honoring the healing laws of nature that have been spoken about throughout the world in all different healing traditions.
All right, so let's just talk about the seven laws of healing, right, in your book. So let's just tell us on a high level the framework that you're talking about.
Right. So basically, there are these laws that we can access in the body that have been there for thousands of years. They've never changed. And I've read thousands of studies, hundreds and hundreds of books on this, gone back, and I found that there were seven, and I could not reduce it down any further. And many of these have been spoken about by the founders of naturopathic medicine about 100 years ago, but they have different names in different cultures. And the framework really starts with the law of vitality, which is this law that the body is always working to heal itself. This vis or vis medicatrix, the healing power of nature, this energy, this chi or prana, whatever you want to call it, that we can access as physicians and as patients in order to restore normal structure and function in the body. And this is kind of where it all starts. And so this is the first law, and it sort of sets the framework for all of the other six.
Okay, so it's the same thing. Like Ayurveda talks about prana, right? You just said that. Acupuncture talks about chi. Naturopathic doctors talk about energy. So we're all talking about the same language here.
Exactly. And we call it the vital force, which
Okay.
Hippocrates, the so-called founding father of modern medicine 2,500 years ago, called it the vis medicatrix natura, which in Latin means the healing power of nature. And so we call it the vital force. But exactly, it's just different words for the same thing. And it is a law. There's a way to access it. We can enhance it. We can support it. And then the body will do the work to heal itself.
Okay, so let's just take an example. How can the body heal itself? I mean, we are watching so many people die right now, right? In India, every day, the hearts are going out for that.
Yeah.
How does it pertain to, not that we're talking about COVID here, but just the healing part?
Right. Well, this naturally moves into the second law, and that's the law of disease. And this law, it's basically a triangle or like a three-legged stool. And it says that all imbalance in our body is caused by three things. By deficiency, that is not having the right nutrients, not having what the body needs to build stuff. Second is toxicity. When the body is toxic, when toxins build up in our tissues, in our blood, it drives disease. And then the third one is goes back to this vitality, this energy. When we have insufficient energy, insufficient mitochondrial force, it drives disease as well. And so by working to improve energy, improve deficiency so that we're less deficient, and then reduce toxicity, those are three strategies that will move in this direction.
Okay, so I think that makes a lot of sense. So now on a preventive medicine, right, and normal people like you and me, how do we monitor that, right? Like that's the question.
That's a great question. And I think that every practitioner has different ways of monitoring this and different systems, different traditions. I mean, I can do it through a pulse or through looking at the tongue, even though I'm not a Chinese medicine doctor. But there are so many ways. And really, it's not so much, I think this gets into another important thing, is that it's not so much about the right way or the right supplement or the right modality or the right therapy or the right book. It's more about the right way of thinking and the right approach that aligns all of these different things.
Okay, so what is the third law then?
The third law is the law of cure. And this is based on this idea that came from Dr. Constantine Herring, who was a medical doctor in the early 1900s. And he found that healing proceeds in four ways in the body: from the top down, from the inside out, from the most important to the least important organs, and in the reverse order of symptoms. And so if we're, as a naturopathic physician, if I'm working with a patient with, let's say, Hashimoto's, hypothyroidism, or thyroiditis, and I'm wanting to monitor to make sure we're moving in the direction of healing, if I'm able to observe this law of cure, if I'm seeing symptoms move from the top down, from the inside out, in the reverse order, or maybe from more important organs such as the heart, the brain, to less important organs such as the skin, then I can know that we're likely moving in that direction. Now, the thing is, this isn't something to go try at home. Obviously, people need to work with trained, licensed physicians or licensed therapists and healers in order to access this. It's not something to just go, try at home.
Okay, so someone actually talked about, if you could talk a little bit on improving the immunity as it's going on right in the world. Any thoughts on that, or your protocol or the laws of nature talks about the immunity part?
Yeah, so really, it's going to depend on the person. And I am not a protocol-driven doctor. Obviously, it's going to fall in line with, a little more selenium, a little more zinc, a little more vitamin D, some B vitamins. But it's also going to fall in line with, how can we lower toxicity? Maybe the person is, maybe they just went on a bender for the weekend and didn't eat the best food, or maybe had a little too much to drink, or maybe they're really stressed from their job and it's lowering their immunity. And so as a doctor, I need to look at what are the root causes and what are the mediators? In other words, what's underpinning it, but also what's mediating it? In other words, what's coming in and making things worse? And a lot of times it's stress, lack of sleep, lack of adequate light, all of those things. And so if I can figure out the 3 or 4 that my patient is dealing with, and then we can work on that, we can get the immunity up pretty quickly. And then, maybe take a good immune support supplement. Again, this isn't about taking the right immune support supplement. I mean, I certainly have my favorites, but it's about finding the one that's right for you, finding the practitioner that's right for you, and then also doing those things.
So, okay, so yeah, the toxicity part makes sense, and not giving your body the right nutrients, and then understanding your body, right? Ayurveda talks about the same thing, acupuncture talks about the same thing, and you're also saying the same thing as a naturopathic doctor. So, and then now what happens after? What are the other laws that you talk about? Yeah,
so the fourth law is the law of compensation. And this one's a little more tricky, a little more esoteric in a way, but basically it states that whatever we do to the body has a primary effect, which can be observed. For example, I take Tylenol, my fever goes down. But then there's always a secondary effect. And the secondary effect moves in the opposite direction of the primary effect. It's also more persistent generally. And so we can use this law in nature to get better. But if we don't know about this law, then certain therapies are only going to work for a little while, or they're not going to work at all, or we're going to overdo it and we're going to actually make ourselves worse. And this actually explains why in pharmacology, a lot of times certain medications only work for a little while, or they, the body compensates and then the dose has to be raised. A classic example would be like with antihypertensive medication. A lot of times it'll reduce the blood pressure, but then after a while, the blood pressure will come back and it'll actually be maybe slightly higher than before. And I, as a physician, will have to maybe raise that dose slightly. And this is the law of compensation. We also see it with hot and cold applied to the body. For example, when you put an ice pack on a sprained ankle for 20 minutes, and maybe you leave it on a little bit too long, at first the ankle will reduce in swelling and pain will go down. But then if the ice is left on too long, it actually will go back in the opposite direction, and the pain will be worse, the swelling will be worse. This is the law of compensation. And so very, very important. There's also 3 more laws that are...
Of course, absolutely.
Yeah. The other 3 laws, the sixth law, the 5th law is the law of resonance. And what this states is that things we can do, that the body is always emitting certain frequencies. Just like if you're a musician, I happen to be a musician, and certain instruments emit certain tones, certain harmonics. I happen to play guitar, my wife plays violin, and I know that if I set my guitar next to her violin and I pluck one string on my guitar, her violin will begin to vibrate at the harmonics that it shares in common, and only the ones that it shares in common with my guitar. And this is the same in medicine. We have certain plants, certain medicines that resonate with certain organs in our body and resonate with certain disease states. I think one example, and this is not an exact science, but one example would be like milk thistle. Milk thistle is, or silymarin, it's known to be really powerful for the kidneys and the liver, particularly the kidneys. And so one could say, well, there's actually a resonance between milk thistle and the kidneys. And we actually know now from the science that there's a lot of properties in milk thistle that have been isolated that actually have direct action on the kidneys. And this is coming in now after milk thistle has been used for decades, actually centuries, to treat kidney disease. So there's a resonance. And so we can use this law of resonance. And also certain practitioners are going to resonate with certain patients. So we have to find out what are the right things for us, what resonates with us. And it's very practical. The 6th law is the law of synergy, and this one states that certain things we combine. For example, if you put black pepper with turmeric, turmeric happens to be more potentized, and so they have a synergy. Or if you take frankincense and myrrh, we actually know scientifically, you can cruise on PubMed right now. If you put frankincense and myrrh together, the antimicrobial properties are actually there's a synergy, and they're more powerful than if I just used frankincense by itself. Now, we can go back into the Bible or into other sacred traditions, and we can read about the use of frankincense and myrrh thousands of years ago. And so that's the law of synergy, and it's a very powerful one as well. We can use it for disease, but we can also use it to get better. And then finally, the 7th law is probably the most important law, and that's the law of intention.
What is that?
The law of intention states that whatever our mind persistently focuses on will begin to come alive. It will begin to, the mind will actually begin to take on whatever it focuses on. And this has all been shown in thousands and thousands of studies, including randomized controlled trials. And professional athletes all over the world use this law. For example, Tiger Woods, when he's visualizing winning the Masters, and he's visualizing his swing. And all great athletes are doing this. Baryshnikov, the great ballet dancer, was always visualizing his movements, his dance before. And we can use this law. So when a patient comes in to see me, I'm actually visualizing them getting better. And I encourage my patients to also take a few minutes. It's meditation. Visualize the changes they want. Visualize the tumors going away. Visualize that cold going away. What would it be like to not have that upper respiratory infection? What would it be like to not have that fever, and to feel it, to taste it, and to see it? And this, whether it's placebo or not, it works.
So it's actually, you're absolutely right. It's the mindset, right? If you start having positive thoughts to make it really simple, right? And the intention that you're talking about, the positivity eventually starts happening in your body because you have a strong mind of thinking that I'm going to get better, whatever that thing could be, right?
Exactly. And if a person doesn't want to get better, if their intention is not to get better, I can do nothing for them. And
Yes.
that's okay. There's nothing wrong with not wanting to get better, but I can't do anything. The person has to want, they have to intend to heal or to move in the direction of healing. And healing is a spectrum, right? Health is a spectrum. It's a journey, not a destination. It's not about arriving and now I'm healthy and I was sick. It's more a gradation.
Absolutely. You know, like it's an everyday affair, right? In the sense, like we can just say now today you and I are healthy and we stop taking care of ourselves, and then down the line 1 year back down, and things have changed. So it's like a constant journey that you're talking about, taking care of a car, being body our car, or whatever you want to say it, right?
Exactly. And we can trust it. We can trust these laws. We can trust these laws of healing in our bodies. And this book, I don't take any credit for any of these laws. I just happen to put them together because I wish this book existed. If you would have given me this book when I was 20 years old, it would have changed my life, honestly. And I'm not saying that from any ego. This book didn't exist. I had to go read widely. I had to read old texts that were, translated from German and translated from Sanskrit and translated from Chinese and all these. And I had to, and I had to try to understand. I'd come across these laws, and then I learned a little bit about them in naturopathic medical school. But they were difficult to tease out because they're not just somebody doesn't say, "Oh yeah, here you go. Here's the laws of healing. Go have fun with it."
So you talked about the turmeric and the black pepper, right? The sixth law. Then there's also food that's incompatibility. So do you also talk about that, the incompatibility of it? Not that you talk about the law of synergy.
Absolutely. Well, and
also,
that's
right.
Exactly, and that's the powerful thing about this. Each law can be used for the good or for the evil, or for the the good or the bad. In other words, if I use two things that really should not be together, that's also the law of synergy, because the two are opposed. They're canceling each other out. And I actually do this a lot with food. I test my patients' blood for food intolerance combinations. And so I'm able to determine, what two foods they should not eat together. And I know you probably have a lot of this in Ayurvedic tradition as well.
Yes. So, okay, I'm just curious that why did you name your book The Serpent and the Butterfly? So very catchy name.
I named it that because the book actually starts out with a little bit of a fable, a little bit of a myth. I love myths. I love stories. And the serpent and the butterfly are both such powerful symbols of healing and transformation. The serpent sheds its skin to be reborn anew, just like the moon sheds its shadow every 30 days to be reborn anew. And in every tradition, even though the serpent is at times also revered as an evil symbol, it also is revered as a keeper of the knowledge of life and death, and of transformation and healing. And of course, we have our modern caduceus, where the two serpents go up the staff. And so we all know the serpent as a symbol of healing. And then the butterfly goes through the three stages, from the nymph to the larva to the butterfly. And it literally it melts down, literally turns into a gel, almost into a substance that then is reborn as the butterfly. And what's really interesting is that if I have a background in language and linguistics, and the word psyche means butterfly in Greek, and it also means soul. And so the butterfly is like our soul, and we have to, and so we go through these stages of healing. And then what's really magical for me is that when you combine the serpent and the butterfly together, it's like almost like a dragon. And I have an image on my book here of the serpent kind of going up this pole, and then the butterfly wings at the top. And so when you combine these two, in the myth, this serpent goes and swallows this butterfly because it just found it so beautiful, and so it eats this butterfly, and then it wakes up to become a dragon. And basically, the dragon, has earth, air, fire, and water, so it kind of embodies all of the elements. And so that's really what it's all about. It's all about healing, and it's all about reminding ourselves of this transformation. The butterfly and the serpent are within us. They're within our psyche. They're within our soul, and they can be accessed. And we I'm just a guide, and there's so many thousands of amazing healers and practitioners and therapists, and we're all kind of helping to almost be midwives, or to help facilitate healing and kind of guide people along the journey. And it starts with us. If I'm not doing my work, if I'm not healing myself, if I'm not walking my talk, if I'm not actually embodying the laws of healing to some degree in my life, then it's not going to have power for other people, I don't think, as much, at least with my patients.
Sure, sure, absolutely. What would be the message you'd like to tell the viewers? They should obviously buy your book for sure, but in addition to that.
Yeah, I would say you can trust your body's ability to heal.
Yeah.
And I'd say go seek out, read books, seek out a practitioner, a therapist, an acupuncturist, a Reiki practitioner, a naturopathic doctor, a chiropractor, an osteopath, an Ayurvedic. Go seek it out and find the ones that you love. And you can trust your body's ability to heal. And it just put one step forward every day. And you could actually trust the laws of healing in this book. I have a lot of practical tips in here at the end of each chapter of maybe seven or 8 or 9 different ways to carry out to put each law into action. So it's not just philosophy, it's also a way of living.
Sure, absolutely. I think that's an amazing work that you've done. The way you outlined the 7 laws, kind of putting a structure out of what we already knew, like which was 5,000 years back, but we were just kind of snippets at it, but nobody put a structure to it, Right.
It's so true. It's and another great thing is the book is so short. It's just like you can read it in an hour and a half. And I love that because I don't think we have time anymore. Who has time to read? It's also on Audible, so you can go and download it and listen to it for a few bucks. You can listen to it in your car at double speed and read the whole book in an hour.
Okay, great. No, thank you so much, Dr. Ben, for being with us. I think these kind of talks are so invigorating. I mean, so stimulating. I mean, considering what's happening in many parts of the world right now, as we are seeing every single day, right?
Oh, it's so true. It's just amazing.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. Thank you, everyone, for watching us.